Kylie, welcome to the zip video. So this demonstration will show you how to create a zip and apply it to a fashion garment. So this is a pretty basic fashion garment. It's just a basic mini skirt. It's got a center front zip and two side zips. So I forgot the stopper down there, but I'm going to show you how to create a full zip by making a zip pattern brush and then drawing your own zip pull and then adding the tape and a little stopper down the bottom. So your zip might look entirely different to this. It might be, have acrylic teeth, or it might have chunky metal teeth. It might be fluorescent pink. But it doesn't matter because you can draw each different component the way that you want your zip pull to look. But the mechanics, the basic process of creating the zip pull will not change. Some people create a three-part zip where they create like a brush where they create the zip teeth, they create the stopper and the zip pull. But I just like to create the zip teeth for the brush, and then I just like to add draw my own zip pull and put the stoppers on, because I find that I can just have a library of different zip teeth, and then I can just apply different stoppers, stoppers and zip pulls, because they change quite a lot. So I don't want to be creating a new brush each time. So although I create a new zip pull, but for me that's the easiest way, and that's what I'm going to teach you today. So if I zoom out, this is pretty much what it looks like. So if I just pull it apart, you've got a zip pull there, you've got the zip teeth, and you've got the tape, and then you've got the stopper down the bottom. Okay, so if I come over here, you'll be able to see there's basically a base. I'm not going to draw these, but you could draw a base with a rectangle with rounded corners, and then I draw the zip pull any shape that you like. In this case, this is a rounded rectangle shape with a little cutout there, and then I just put another little rounded rectangle over the top as a fastener, so the zip can pivot and you can pull it and so on the pull. So, and then I just put, using the type tool, I just put type on there for the logo. So it's a three-part, so it's a three-piece zip pull, and the way I do the stoppers is I just put three rectangles, just like that. Pretty much. You can group them, and then you can place them on there at the end. So, and this here is just a rectangle as well with rounded corners. In fact, I think I didn't even round the corners up. I think I just rounded the stroke. Yeah, so I just did an ordinary rectangle, and I just rounded the stroke to just give the corners a little bit of softening, whereas the other ones are actually the actual zip pull and everything is actually a rectangle with rounded corners. So anyway, let's go over here and create the the teeth, the brush. But you can also create one with a ring, and again that's the fastening bit, and that's the base. The same base, the same fastener, but a different ring. So you could put gradients on these to make them look more metallic. It's really up to you. Alright, so let's look at making the zip teeth. So what I'll do is it's essentially just two little zip teeth, so one beside the other. So let's just zoom in, and the way that you colour it's totally up to you. I'm just going to get a rectangle. I'm going to draw approximately yay long to give you context. It's about 0.23 by 0.797. I'm not going to be too worried about that, but I am going to make it 0.1 stroke width. Oh, 0.1. Oh, 0.1. Yeah, 0.1 stroke. And to round off the corners, you just get your go to your selection tool, and you can see when I hover over those little circles. If you pull on one of those circles, you can see my cursor's got a little semicircle. I can just round off the corner. I might just make that a bit wider. And yeah, so that's about right. That's approximately, what's that, 0.21 by 0.74. So once you've done that, I'm going to colour mine in grey because I'm doing a, like that silvery zip. I'm going to make it very light grey. Oops. If I want to change the fill colour, I need to come over to Yep, and I'm just going to colour in the fill. I accidentally coloured in the stroke. I'm going to leave the stroke black. You could make it tonal. Sometimes people make, this like a dark grey, but I'm just going to keep it black for now. The next thing I want to do is just draw in this. I draw in this sometimes just for a little bit of shine. So I'm going to make that a very light grey with no stroke. And I'm literally going to just draw out and drag out some of these handles by click and dragging on that. Come up to here, click and drag, and come up to there, and you can see a little circle appears. I can pop that in there and close that little shape. So I'm not going to be too fussed about making this perfect, because it will give it can be any sort of shape. You can make this come over here a little bit more if you really want. But yeah, it's not going to be too fussed. No one really sees it. All they see is really just the lightning effect, like the light's hitting it. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to drag off a copy option, and I'm going to drag it, but I'm going to stagger it down just below. So you might need to adjust this a couple of times before you get it right. I'm just going to place it there. Don't place it about here, because you can see you get really thick. Because when your brush is repeated when your brush is repeated like this, it'll repeat like and so on and so on and so on. It'll just repeat with big black, big black lines there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that over so that I'm going to fit it so that it looks pretty much like that this line, black line, continues down there. It doesn't change thickness, and you get like a nice sort of even, outlines. It all looks sort of even without this thickening through the centre. So have a little, as I said, you may need to adjust how much of the stagger that you want, but let's just test it. Go to your brushes, select over both of those with your selection tool and drag it in there. Select pattern brush, go OK. You're not going to have any spacing because you want them to butt up next to each other when each of this little tile is repeated. Maybe choose auto between for the side tiles. I'm not planning on my zip going around corners, but I'll just do that anyway. And I'm going to stretch to fit the space. So basically it'll stretch to fit between the two anchor points, say that's an anchor point and that's an anchor point. It'll just stretch any of those little pieces just to fit that. So if I just zoom out and I do a little bit of a test, if I delete that. So let me just draw out a line, hold down shift to keep it straight, and then I'll just apply the effect. And there's two ways you can resize it. So that looks pretty good to me. If you wanted to adjust how much stagger it has from this one here to that one, like if you wanted this tooth here to become a little bit higher, all you would do is raise this up here a little bit, and you'd just remake your zip pull in the way that I just showed you. So anyway, if you want to resize your zip pull, you can do two things. You can either reduce the stroke, or you can click on the stroke options for your pattern brush, and you can reduce, or you can do both. You can reduce the size of it. So I'm going to reduce it until I think that it's the right size. I'll go OK, and that looks great. So that's my zip brush, basically. So now I'm going to make my zip pull. So I'm not going to show you how to do it, but let's just, I'm going to drag out these components. I'm going to copy this over here. I'm going to copy this one. So you need to have drawn these individually, and I'll drag out that one. And I'm going to, what's going on there? Okay, so I'm actually going to bring all of these to the front because they are sitting behind my zip. Alright, so I'm also actually going to select all three of them and make them a bit smaller. I'll start dragging and holding down shift. So basically I want my zip pull to be proportionate to my zip, so you might need to resize it. Okay, so that looks fine, and then I like to have all my outlines the same as well, so just make sure all of these outlines, 0.089, whatever it is, are all the same. Yep, all my stroke is the same. So now I'm going to put my zip pull over the top, and then I'll put that little fastener thing there. So look, if you want to, sometimes I add shine, and sometimes, these zips can be heavily detailed, or they might have, embossing or debossing. For this one, I've just got a simple, just added a simple, I'm just going to get rid of that stroke because for some reason my stroke's going weird. So sometimes if you want it to have more of a debossed look where it's like stamped in, you might want to make this a little bit darker, and then you can put a little dark outline. But bear in mind these get quite small, so it's not really super obvious. Sometimes I like to make that inside just a little bit darker. Oops, and what, oh, I might just ungroup that for a sec. Where did that go? Let's send that arrange backward. Yeah. Sometimes I make that just a little bit darker than that, but you can go to town on how you do it. I just don't want to waste too much time. This is a pretty simple zip. So the next thing I want to do is just create the tape. So I'm going to get a rectangle. I'm going to make that like a darker grey, just to keep it really simple. Make it grey. I'm going to draw out the length of the zip. I'm going to send that to the back so that it sits underneath everything that I've drawn, and I'm just going to adjust this to be to the size that I want. You know, zip tapes can vary. Sometimes you've got big wide ones. It just depends on your type of zip. So you just make sure you know what you're drawing, and then you adjust your rectangle to be suitable for what you're doing. Sometimes people might have, you know, coloured zips. So zip tape. So basically, what we do now is I'm just going to increase the stroke a little bit on that. I might just make that point. I might make that point one as well, just for this. And then what I'm going to do now is just, you know, add the little rectangles down the bottom to the stoppers. So I'm going to make these stoppers the same colour as my zip pull, and then I'm going to add a little rectangle down here. I make it the width of the zip, and then I'm going to drag out to draw one, and then I'll just hold. Oh, I might need to just zoom in for a minute because it gets a little bit. Everything gets a little bit sort of hard to grab when you're not zoomed in, and then I'll just Option Shift to drag that over. Hold down Shift, select, and then just adjust that. What I really want to do, I might just drag that out. I just want it to be cover the zip teeth, and then yeah, I might just bring that in just a little bit. Anyway, that's pretty much it. So I would, or actually just bring that up. So you have a look at your zip teeth. Have a look at your zip. Work out how it's constructed, and then you can just draw yours accordingly. That should be fine. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to soften off these corners. So see how those corners are quite, I do this with most of my drawings. I round off my stroke just to give myself a nice little, rounded corners, because, you know, when it comes to fabric and things like that, there are rarely sharp corners. So I think that's a bit tall. Hold down Shift, maybe make that a little bit smaller. Anyway, let's just not get carried away. I could sit here for hours doing that, but I don't have hours. So that's how you create your zip. So, and then you can basically just change that back to grey for a sec. Maybe make it a dark grey. So then you can apply that to your garment. So what I would do is just hold down, group it, and then you can see, you can kind of drag that onto the garment, and then you can literally hold down Shift, make it smaller. So I guess what I would really be doing though is I would be applying this. I've drawn this I've drawn this off the garment, and then I've brought it onto the garment and resized it. But I guess it would really be quite good if you were actually doing this. Probably the best thing to do would be to draw this to apply on the garment. So let's say you're doing the centre front one. I would do a line all the way down there, and then I would get my brush, apply my brush, and then go to my option box, and then adjust the size of it. So it's actually quite small, this one. And I'll go OK. Oh, I made it really small. I might just make that a little bit bigger. All right. So I would actually draw that first and then bring your 500 that, and then bring, you know, all these things onto the garment. It might just be easier that way, but you can draw them off the garment and just drag that, bring it to the front, arrange, bring it to the front. I've forgotten I left my wording behind, but it doesn't matter, my text, my logo. But there you go, and then you can draw your taping and things. Okay, so that's pretty much how it's done.